Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Womansplain. Today we have an incredible guest, Lulu Ge. She is the founder of Elix, an innovative hormonal wellness company inspired by traditional Chinese medicine and rooted in her own struggles with hormonal health and women's health. It's really incredible. I'm going to pass it over to her to give a little more of an intro. We're going to dive into her story.
Hi, Brooke. Hi, Celeste. So great to be here. My journey to starting Elix is actually deeply personal. When I was in my 20s, I experienced just so many awful symptoms of hormonal imbalance, from like hormonal acne everywhere to my hair falling out to really crazy cramps, bloating. And I had no idea that all of these things, from like our sleep, energy, metabolism, it's all related to our hormones. So I'm really excited to be here and chat more with you guys.
Amazing. And such a relatable problem. I personally have also had horrible periods, hormonal acne, all the things. I think it's like wild how widespread it is.
Mhm.
And the fact that birth control is kind of the main solution. And then when you go off birth control, things go haywire. So I am so excited that I feel like you are disrupting women's health, which I feel like needs it in a really natural and holistic and organic way.
Oh, I'm so excited for this conversation because literally we're not talking enough about
Mm.
post birth control syndrome.
Oh my
Like, I think
gosh.
birth control has done so many amazing things for womanhood,
Totally.
but when we look at the stats, it's like 60% of birth control is actually prescribed off label to manage
Mm.
a hormonal symptom like hormonal acne or cramps or PMS. And that's not what it was invented for. It was invented as a contraceptive to prevent us from getting pregnant. And it's
Mhm.
just being used as a band aid solution for all of these other things when it's 2026. Women deserve root cause
Mm.
healing, and that's what we're all about.
Completely. And it's wild. I mean, I personally went off birth control after being on it for 12 years, which is really normal. Like women spend now the majority of their fertile lives on birth
Mhm,
control.
mhm,
And honestly, it's responsible and logical. And like we should all make our own choices with our
mhm.
bodies. But then I went off and my body had no idea what was happening. And also like it took a long time for me to even understand what was going on with my body.
Mhm.
As I feel like so many women struggle with this. It is wild how widespread it is. So
Yeah.
And no one talks about it.
no one talks
Mhm,
about
It's a
it.
big problem.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
like it's great. So I would love to learn a little bit more. So you have all these struggles in your 20s. How
Mhm.
did this sort of develop into you creating Elix? What were you doing at
Yeah.
this time
Oh
too?
my gosh, it was such a long journey.
Mhm.
So it was many years of not knowing what was happening in my body, and in my late 20s, I was so focused on climbing the corporate ladder,
Mhm.
chasing that next promotion. So I was waking up super early in the morning, downing an iced coffee, skipping breakfast, like working my way through lunch, starved by the afternoon, having
Mhm.
migraines, like finally, chomping on a salad before rushing through like the rest of work and trying to make it out for happy hour. It was just like a crazy life. And I had no idea how burnt out and depleted my body was. I probably had like so many different hormonal imbalances, but all of it manifested itself in my periods.
Yeah.
And during this time, I experimented with so many different types of birth control, from different pills to patch, ring, and I just never felt quite like myself when I was on these synthetic hormones. But when I went off, very similar to your experience, it was like my periods came back with a vengeance.
Mm.
And everything kind of culminated on my wedding day, like in August in Tuscany. I
Gosh.
had just such like crazy hormonal balance, and I was stressed with the wedding planning that my period actually came a week early and I bled through my wedding dress.
Wait, that's actually a
Oh
nightmare.
my
That's
gosh.
actually horrible. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, that was when I was like, okay, like this is unacceptable. My
Yeah.
period is literally
It's also like
ruining my
probably
life.
90 degrees in August
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it was during a heat wave,
Oh my
made
gosh.
it through the ceremony.
That's
I have very beautiful photos, but literally during cocktail hour, as we're like all making our way up the stairs to this beautiful Italian garden, my bridesmaids were like, Lulu, we've got to go to the bathroom. And I was like, no, 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 we need to take like family photos. We need to take friends photos. They're like, no, 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 you need to come with us to the bathroom right now. And my bridesmaids were literally dabbing blood off the back of my
Wow.
like white French lace wedding
That's
Oh
dress.
when you know
my
you got good bridesmaids, though.
gosh.
I will
Yes, for
say, like those
sure.
girls have got your
Oh
back.
yeah, they had the Tide stick. They were
Yeah.
able to get
They
it
were
up. They caught
yeah.
it right at the
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
beginning.
but that's still horrifying. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So
like
horrifying. Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah. And then it was like that was after like times when I wasn't able to make it to work, had to call in sick because my
Mhm.
cramps are so bad. And just got to a point where I was like, I can't keep living like this, having my period and my hormones control my life. But when I went back to my gynecologist or to like other Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue, award-winning gynecologists in New York City. Their only solution was to put me back on pill, patch, ring,
Yeah.
prescribe antidepressants for my mood swings, or like give me some opioids for the pain. It was like, do you guys not have anything else you can offer me?
Yeah, literally. No, for sure. That's incredible. Also so relatable. Totally understand. And when you were how did you start your career? I know you also are a
Mhm.
Penn alum and have your
Yay, good
MBA.
wording.
So I know you've had an
Yes.
incredible career. So just tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
too when you started your career.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
as a good immigrant kid, my parents really valued education. So I did my undergrad in double majored in art history, political science. Thought I
Wow.
was going to be a lawyer, but then
Okay.
realized after interning in nonprofit law for a year, I hated it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the type of law I wanted to practice, nonprofit, I wouldn't make any money to pay
Yep.
back my law school bills.
Yeah.
So it was literally like a really bad idea. Like I think my boss pulled me aside and was like, if you really like doing nonprofit legal work, this is not the right career for you
Yeah.
because you're not going to be able to do this for 20 years until you pay off your debt. So then I ended up getting a master's in social organizational psychology focused on behavioral change. Like I
Okay.
just love understanding what motivates people, how do we help people reach their potential in life. And I spent the first couple years of my career working in management consulting. And it was really like helping companies craft strategies to take them, whether it was like global expansion or entering new market, and really figuring out what the human capital strategy and the change management piece to bring the people along. And then long story short, I was recruited to a major fashion retailer to do corporate strategy and change management work internally.
Very cool.
So when all of this happened, I felt like I finally got my dream job. I was in my late 20s running like a $300 million budget, like
Wow.
working on all these cool projects. And, I love my job, but it was so easy to also, when you love what you're doing, to unintentionally run yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear that because I also have a master's in organizational behavior. So
Amazing.
love change
Rare.
management. Very rare. Yes. At Wharton, I did it while I was doing my undergrad. But
So cool.
super interested in organizations. And of course, I'm sure you've had experiences in big organizations. And I know you went through this traumatic experience in your 20s. But did you ever think that you're going to start your own company? It seems like you've had experiences in these large, firms.
Honestly, I think the immigrant dream from my parents was to always work inside big corporate America because that was like the symbol that you have made it in this country. And my parents were entrepreneurs because they came to this country without any connections, without resources. And so they felt like their only path was to be entrepreneurs. And I remember when I had the idea for Elix, and it took like years of doing research and R&D and piloting the product before I had the confidence to say, okay, I want to leave my job and do this. But I remember the moment I took my parents out to lunch and I told them I was quitting my corporate job to start a women's health Chinese medicine startup. My mom literally looked me in the eye and started bursting into tears.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I get it. I get it. I
Goosebumps.
mean, like obviously they overcame incredible challenges to where they were, and being an entrepreneur is really hard.
Mhm.
And they knew firsthand
I
how
mean,
hard it
how
was. They
hard
wanted
it
to save me
was.
from it.
And they're like,
Yeah.
we sacrificed so much so you could have a safer,
Mhm.
better, easier life. Like we want you to have an easier life than we had, right? And like
Totally.
everyone wants their kid to have pretty much the easiest life they can. They will
Yeah.
basically sacrifice their bodies and lives
Yeah.
so they have a better life than
Yeah.
them, right? So
Totally.
it is terrifying. It's like just no one wants their kid to feel unsafe. And they're like,
Mhm.
look at this like safe option that you have,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's a terrifying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
get it.
And
I
you have
understand.
an incredible education,
Yeah.
your MBA from
Mhm.
Wharton and all and a great job. And they're probably like,
Yeah.
oh
It
no,
wasn't
like
like you
what are you
hated
doing?
it. Like you liked your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. And that was the thing. It was like when I was experiencing all of these like debilitating symptoms, and then I found my way back to Chinese medicine, there was like a part of me that's like, wait, more people need to find out about this. This really needs to exist in the world. And at the time I was working in fashion, it was like 80% women, but yet we never talked about our periods. This was also like a decade ago. I think the
Totally.
world has changed a lot with TikTok and everything. But
Mhm.
10 years ago, it was like, if you were a high powered corporate woman, you wanted to show that you could do everything that men was capable of. And so you didn't want to let your period, your hormones, like perimenopause, any of this stuff hold you back. So I think the corporate environment was very different. And when I discovered the herbs, I was just so shocked at how incredible Chinese medicine is to help our bodies rebalance that it was the first time I started talking about my period at work. And that was when I learned, like, my friend Allison, who was like a size 00, she had the office next to mine and she couldn't wear jeans like a week a month because of her hormonal bloating.
Mhm.
Or like my friend Heather, who had crazy hormonal migraines, and it was all due to our periods, but we never talked about it.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Also the amount of like research and development that has happened in women's health in the last
Hmm.
10 years is pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's horrifying when you look at like the lack of information we had. But I think just the amount of startups that have been created, the amount of focus on women's health and funding and investment
Great.
is changed that a
Yeah.
lot. I also think like men have changed in terms of like how open they are about talking
Mhm.
about women's periods and like okay with it. Like
Hmm.
I just remember being like so deeply humiliated about it like 10 years ago or in
Mhm.
college. Like it was like a crazy secret. Like you could not tell your boyfriend, you could not tell like anyone
Yeah.
ever, but like pretend like you were sick or something. You know what I'm saying? And now it's just
Yeah.
like everyone's chatting with their boyfriends. All the men, all the men have developed. I don't know, but there was like literally videos on TikTok about
Oh,
them
yeah.
making you
Mhm.
steak on your and taking care of you. It's like
Love that
relax.
content.
It's like great. So no matter what, it's like even in a female dominated environment, corporate is built for and kind of run by men.
Totally.
And so I think when, obviously more content came out, men became more comfortable with it, then everyone became more
Yeah.
comfortable with it. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's only a good thing.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
love that this is also kind of rooted back to your upbringing and your
Yes.
background and your family. Because I
Mhm.
know your grandfather
Mhm.
had worked in medicine in China.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of think about, going back to your roots and kind of dabbling in Chinese medicine? Because I know you talked about, going to Western doctors and nothing
Yeah.
was working. What was that moment that made you want to change?
Honestly, I have to credit my mom with this because she was sick of hearing me complain about my period. And then when she found out, I was like literally calling in sick to work, missing
Mhm.
days. Like I remember I worked for months on this like massive post-merger integration plan at work. And I had a promotion hinging upon a board presentation. But on the morning of the board presentation, I was in so much pain. I was literally curled up on the bathroom floor, unable to
Oh.
move. And it was that moment that, along with like the wedding dress, it was just like my mom was like, okay, Lulu, if you're going to these doctors and they're not giving you solutions and you're not getting better, you need to give Chinese medicine a try. And I think as an immigrant kid who grew up in this country and kind of socialized to
Mhm.
assimilate, because I came to this country not speaking a word of English. So it was,
Wow. How
Yeah.
old are you when you
I
immigrated?
was 4.5 years old.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
was
I
the
like
was
same. I was
honestly,
Oh
5
my
when I
gosh.
came. Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It's like
yeah.
you're assimilating, you're
Yeah.
learning the language, you're learning the culture, you're like learning what it means to be American is to shed everything that's like
Yeah.
different about you. So I think like I had this like internalized like stigma against Chinese medicine. Like I had all
Mhm.
these like questions like, oh, does it actually work? It's just something you guys made me do as a kid. So, I was like cautiously skeptical. But my mom really insisted that I meet with a doctor of Chinese medicine. He read my tongue. He told me
Mm.
everything about me from looking at my tongue. And then he prescribed me a blend of herbs that was tailored to the root cause of my symptoms. And I
Mm.
think that's why it really worked so well. It's very different than going to Whole Foods and having the sales associate be like, you need turmeric.
Yeah. And like it's been around for thousands of years. This is the
Totally.
oldest type of medicine that's been around. There's so many use cases. People have lived, to 100 plus
Hmm.
years by following this type of routine.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of science rooted in it as well.
100%. And that was really the vision behind Elix. How do we bring something into the world that is personalized at scale, that's really supporting at the root cause, that's educating about both the science, like an East meets West approach, and also the cultural aspects of the medicine. Because Chinese medicine, I think, is very different than biomedicine, pharmaceuticals in so many ways, but one key element is that it's a way of life.
Mm.
Its teachings are about how do you live with circadian rhythm, like follow the rhythm of the sun and the moon for when you should be having activity and doing work versus when you should be resting and relaxing? How do you live according to the rhythm of the seasons? Like what you eat and do in the winter should be different than the summer. And then for women, especially, there's so much rich knowledge on the yin and yang of our cycle. Like, how do we really sync our cycles and hack our hormones according
Wow.
to what our body needs in each week of the month and each week of our cycles? It's really powerful.
Yeah.
No, it is. It totally is. And like we have, I mean, men are completely different where they're every single day, their hormones are the same, which is like wild. Honestly, it's like
Mhm.
a wild thing in comparison to us.
Mhm.
And we do have like this great superpower, but I feel like Western medicine kind of suppresses it, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like honestly, the real difference between Western, obviously, please correct me, but and like Chinese medicine is kind of slow acting. It's definitely
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
focus on the root
Yeah.
cause. It's more like ritualistic and like routine oriented to build it
Mhm.
into your general health versus Western medicine is definitely like solve the solution
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. It's like Band-Aid,
It's
quick
Yeah.
band-aid. It's
fix,
like, oh, fix your
immediate.
Yeah.
symptom. Yeah, exactly.
Versus like
Yeah.
Immediate
healing
versus
from
long
within.
term.
Yeah.
Which is just like very not Western. Like honestly, like
Mhm.
Western attitudes are like convenient, quick, what can
Mhm.
put me back to work tomorrow.
Totally.
And so I understand what, and there was a large stigma against it for a long time. I
Yeah.
think it's like melting now,
Yeah.
honestly, like
Yeah.
is now being introduced to us. So tell us how then, okay, so you go to the TCM doctor.
Mhm.
I'm assuming he gives you herbs and things that like help.
He does.
And then how do you go from that to Elix?
Oh, it was a multi-year journey.
Mhm.
So he gives me herbs. I'm like boiling them at
You're like,
home
what
for
is going on?
5 minutes a day. My husband is coming home like, what is that smell? It's so rancid. I'm like, these are my period herbs.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna heal my body. But that next month when my period came, I felt like my normal self. It was
Yeah.
incredible. And I remember it was like a spring day. I'm going to work at a fashion retailer and I pull out a white, like one of my favorite white Halston Heritage dresses, not even thinking that it might be my period. I go to the bathroom, I look down before lunch and I'm like, oh my gosh, my period started. I didn't even feel a thing. And that was when I started talking to my
Wow.
coworkers about, oh my gosh, I'm trying these herbs. They just started working. I feel so great. And then all my girlfriends at Stack started asking me if they could just drink my period tea. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to give you my period tea. But then when I talked to our family friend doctor, Dr. Halston, I was like, oh my gosh, these herbs are incredible. I feel amazing. He was like, okay, first, you need to take these herbs for 3 more months so that we're really making sure that the benefits are lasting and you're healing from within. Second, your friends, I would need to do an intake assessment on them before I could determine the right blend of herbs for them. And at my old job, I was working with all these big data sets, personalizing the customer experience, that I grew really fascinated with this idea of personalizing Chinese medicine and thought, okay, is there a way we could bring this online and do personalization at scale? So that was when I actually started doing research on the industry, research on what are the common patterns of imbalance for women, what are the questions we would ask to bring this process online, and how we came up with a prototype of what then became Elix's online health assessment, which we still have today. It's 50 to 60 questions long. Anyone could go to elixhealing.com and take the health assessment to discover the herbs best for them and their pattern of imbalance.
Yeah. I think that's
Wow.
like the best part of Elix is very personalized. You take that,
Mhm.
60 question
Mhm.
questionnaire. You have to take a photo of your tongue and
Yeah.
make it very personalized. And then they give you these solutions that work
Mhm.
for you. And then I know you mentioned the R&D process was like
Mhm.
a few years long.
Oh, yes.
Were you still working at Saks at this point? And how are you kind of dividing between your day job and Elix?
Oh, it was so like all my nights and weekends were devoted to doing R&D. I took so many classes on herbalism. I wanted to meet the herbs, get to know them myself. And then I started doing the market research component, like really understanding, okay, what is the landscape of women's health? Why is it that 90% of us experience PMS and hormonal imbalance, but the only solution is birth control and
Yeah.
painkillers? And then I started diving deep on chronic conditions like endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, PMDD. And it was like, wow, these are huge markets. And there's virtually like no natural side effect free solutions. I'm someone who's very risk averse. I want to know that what I'm doing is going to work before I fully dive in. So I actually ended up going back to business school to incubate this idea and work through the business plan. And I kind of gave myself when I started business school, I was still working at Saks. I did the executive program at Warren, which I highly recommend. It was the best decision of my life. And then Elix essentially became my project in every single business school class. So my
amazing.
classmates helped us come up with our first financial model. We did the market research, built the go-to-market strategy. And my classmates, like shout out to Pyle and Gabby, they were some of our first beta testers because I wanted to create a product that was organic, clean, that actually worked, that I would feel proud to give to family, friends, and classmates.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you were kind of incubating during your executive MBA.
Mhm.
And then what was a moment when you're like, all right, this has some potential. I'm going to quit my real job?
So I was taking Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Elix was the startup idea that I was pitching in class. And after our final day of class, my professor, Ethan Mollick, pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, if you decide to do this full time, I'll fund you." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Do you just say this to all of your students?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, no, no." He's like, "I'm totally serious. Like, if you decide to do this full time, go all in, I'll help you raise money."
Wow.
And at the time, part of me kind of didn't believe him. But like fast forward 6 to 8 more months, we had like created the online health assessment beta. We had 2,000 people take it. We had our first cohort of users piloting the product, seeing like really great. It was like in our beta, I think we had like 95% improvement in 3 months. So then that gave me the confidence to say like, okay, I think we're ready to actually raise our first round of funding. And then called up Professor Ethan Mollick, and he actually followed through. He introduced us to some of our first angel investors. Yeah, it was really special.
That's incredible. That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, I also like what a just one boost of confidence, but then what a great like, I don't know, use of the Wharton community. That's amazing. And okay, were you like so shocked when he came up to you? Were you like, "Oh my God, yeah."
Yeah, I was so shocked because it was like I was literally, pitching a menstrual health. At the time, we didn't have this broader vision for, Chinese medicine for holistic health, which is what Elix has become. We now have formulas for sleep, stress, immunity. We're just launched a new formula for mental clarity and focus that features a
Wow.
really beautiful blend of reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps, like organic mushrooms. But we actually boil our mushrooms down for up to
Wow.
like 3 weeks in a liquid decoction. And we even capture the essential oils from the steam. So it's a very clean, it's like unlike anything else on the market. I love it. But anyway, so this was before this broader expansion plan for Alex. So at the time, in business school, I was really pitching Chinese herbs for women's periods. So,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, that was the initial problem,
Right,
right?
right,
And
right.
like,
And it was
then
my personal
It was your personal
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But that's why I was
Honestly,
like, oh my gosh,
Shout out to the professor.
Yeah, Professor
like,
Mollick.
shout out to, like, also like being pretty forward thinking and progressive. Like I love that he wanted to
Yeah.
support a period like a platform. Like good for him. That's also so you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. What is the first step? I mean, I feel like Elix is a pretty complicated company. There's a lot to it. Like not only just the products, but the quiz.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a health company, a lot of regulation. How do you start and where do you go?
Yeah, well, so first, I think it was doing the R&D, making
Okay.
sure we could identify the patterns of imbalance, and then we created the quiz, and then it was making sure that we had the right form factor for the formulas. It was
Okay. What does
very
that mean? What's the form factor?
Yeah, so it was very important to me that we make the formulas in the cleanest, most bioavailable
Okay.
method so that our bodies can actually absorb the phytonutrients.
Okay.
Today in the supplement market, you see a ton of pills, powders, gummies, and there's high quality products out there for sure. But a lot of times when you create like gummies or different pills, there's additional fillers or additives or starches and binding agents. And we really wanted this to stay true to the essence of Chinese medicine, where it's really about food as thy medicine. Like I think about growing up, my grandma, whenever I was sick or not feeling well, she would make herbs and boil it down into like a soup or a tea or a stew. And you were literally ingesting the phytonutrients rather than having all of this additional like fillers and starches. And so for Elix, we wanted to figure out a way that we could follow the traditional Chinese medicine process of decoction. And so depending on the herb, we boil it down in a low temperature for anywhere from a few hours to up to 3 weeks to extract the most
Wow.
phytonutrients possible. I don't know any other company that follows a method like this.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of what adds to our efficacy. But it also, I think it just feels good taking it because our taste buds actually have healing, mechanisms. Like taste is healing. And so we hear a lot from community members like, I end up craving the formulas because my body knows it's doing good.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And how was the R&D process? Was it a surreal experience kind of getting back to your roots and, talking to your parents, your
Mhm.
grandparents, and really embracing that part of you that you were suppressing before?
Yeah, 100%. Really getting to back to family traditions. Understand? It's so funny. My 93-year-old grandma makes this tremella mushroom dessert every
Ooh.
Sunday that my mom also eats for collagen. So it's like rediscovering family recipes like that. And
Mhm.
obviously, tremella mushroom is such a big TikTok trend,
Mhm.
But it's really just been a fun learning process alongside our community. It's also been really fun to learn about the different properties of herbs and foods,
Mhm.
like how different foods have like warming or cooling properties. And there's so many signals from our bodies constantly of what we need. If we have acne that's red and inflamed, it could mean we have internal heat. And so we want cooling foods like
Mhm.
cucumber, watermelon, chrysanthemum tea versus if you have a whitehead and you're feeling fatigue and bloating, it could mean you have internal cold and dampness. So you really want to avoid salads and ice drinks and you want more like warming and damp clearing foods.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I
That's
didn't know any of
fascinating.
that.
That's
I
so
just
much.
learned so much.
Well, and just like how our tongue reveals
Yeah.
so much about what's going on in our health, like for whomever's listening right now, if you stick out your tongue and look at it, and if you see a red tip that correlates to the heart organ, most high powered career women, I will say, have a red tip, and that relates to stress. And it could show up as trouble sleeping, overthinking, over worrying. If you have scallop edges on your tongue, it shows that your tongue is kind of like poofy and bloated. That relates to dampness and
Mm.
fatigue that we were talking about earlier, maybe some bloating. And then if you have red dots on your tongue, that's also really common for high charge women. That could relate to blood stagnation and be related to period cramps, headaches, and other things.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will be looking at my tongue
Yeah.
tonight
Yeah, me
and
too.
analyzing this. I feel like I probably have all of these. I don't think
Yeah,
I do
we all
anything good. I don't
we
really
have
know,
all of
but I'm
them.
like, I feel
We're
like I do all
stressed
the
out all
bad
the
things
time.
according to
But
TCM.
knowledge is power
Knowledge is power.
because then
Yeah.
you could do something about it.
It's
You could
true.
be like,
Mhm.
okay, I've got like, some poofiness. I need to eat some like koi seeds and I
Yeah.
need to make like a millet stew for myself.
Yeah.
And you could feel good about doing that.
No, it's amazing. It also could be like causing symptoms that you like are like, I don't know why I'm tired all the time, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I'm
Mhm.
feeling nauseous, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't, right? Or like I get headaches, like all those things. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh wow, okay, like these things could actually help me without necessarily going to the doctor, which is
Yeah.
Totally.
time consuming and difficult. And people avoid a lot of these kind of like very like quote unquote small health issues. And they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
whatever, I'll just kind of push past it because going to the doctor sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one wants to go. It's hard
Yeah.
to get an appointment. And a lot of
Mhm.
times they don't help you. So it's like honestly, you're like, okay, it's good to have some self help,
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
I can look in the mirror
Yeah.
and see like what does my body need.
And it's
Yeah.
good.
Honestly, on Friday nights, I'm always like sticking out my tongue and looking in the mirror and be like, how is this week for my body? And it's like if I see like a really deep crack and groove in my tongue, I'm like, I'm more tired than I think I am.
Yeah.
That's good info. I should really take it easy this
Oh
weekend.
my gosh, it's like my aura ring. I'm like, oh, I can't do anything today.
Right,
It
right,
told me I need
right.
to rest.
You're like, my tongue is telling me I need to rest all
Yeah,
weekend.
exactly.
But
I
that's
love
why
that.
now, like, we offer one-on-one
Yeah.
virtual consults with our
That's
Mhm.
doctors
great.
of Chinese medicine.
Wow.
Because so much of the education we're doing as Elix is to help people, like literally our motto is tune in, harmonize, heal. We want to help people tune in to the signs and symptoms from our body. So like, what is your tongue telling you? What is your acne telling you? What is your period blood telling you? Or like even
Yeah.
your discharge. Like we had a viral TikTok post recently about how your color, your discharge will tell you so much about your health.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's
interesting.
interesting. Wow. No, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So how did you, going back to obviously the building of the company, because there's such a personal element to
Mhm.
these herbs, and I know it started with your period, and it expanded, how did you really balance that with building the lakes, which I feel like you guys have done a great job? Like, did you start with the quiz? Was that the first step?
Yes.
Did you start engaging doctors? How did that go? And then how did you also start with, like, I don't know, your first generalized products as
Yeah.
well, versus personal?
Yeah, great questions. It really started with I wanted to build the cleanest, most impactful product.
Okay.
And so, I'm not a doctor of Chinese medicine. I had to build a medical advisory board. So it started off with Dr. Xia, our family friend. He's written over 100 papers and 45 books on
Wow.
Chinese medicine in China.
Okay. A
Yeah.
lot.
Wow. That's a
Um,
lot.
He's
Not a
considered
shabby
like a
resume.
national expert, like president of like the Hong Kong American TCM
Oh my
Association. Like we were
gosh.
just very lucky that he was like such a close family friend of my grandfather who ran the hospital in China. So he was someone in the early days I could just like call every week and like bounce ideas off of him. And he could tell me like, no, that's a bad idea. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a workable idea. Okay, do more research here. So he was kind of like my guiding advisor before we really built our medical advisory board. Like today, we're very lucky. We have an East meets West board of like dietitians, MDs, like we have 8 doctors of Chinese medicine on the Elix team. Our lead doctor, Dr. Liam Lee, was actually an introduction through one of my first angel investors. Yeah, Dr. Lee is his nephew. And so I feel like along the journey of building Elix, we've been so blessed that the right people have come along our path at the right time. But after building the quiz along with the personalized formula, we launched March 2020, March 8th during COVID. We literally
Wow.
had a sold out launch event the weekend Governor Cuomo announced a state
Oh
of
my
emergency in New York City.
gosh.
So, we had this whole
Wow.
plan that we were going to raise a little bit of money,
Yeah.
have a great launch,
Mhm.
raise more money. That plan.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you did
Wow.
not think about that, but I
No.
know that it worked out well in your favor, right? So tell us
Definitely.
about the process of
Definitely.
launching a company during COVID.
Well, I mean, it was very scary because, investors closed their doors those
Yeah.
first couple of months, like before the big rush. And so we really quickly had to reassess everything. We had all these in-person events planned for launch, and we quickly had to pivot to online only. And it ended up working well. I think that for those first 18 months, we grew something like 2,000%.
Oh my gosh. Is
Yeah.
this when you focus on your social? Because you have a great social following too. Is this when you kind of focused on that too? Yeah.
It was because we were all at home.
Yeah.
So
No, literally. I mean, like, it was a great idea. It worked out well, but like, you didn't really have much of a choice, probably.
I did not have a choice. I, did not have an office. I was actually so funny. My husband had a really had a bad feeling about staying in New York City during COVID,
Okay.
and his mom was really high risk. And so we brought his mom with us to California to stay with my parents.
Wow.
And at first we thought it was like, oh, we're just going to be with my parents in
Yeah,
California for a
couple
few
weeks.
weeks
Yeah.
while this blows over. We ended up living with my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, my husband, all 5 of us under one roof from March 2020 until December.
Wow. That's why you guys are so close.
Wow.
So I'm like
I mean,
literally
that's bonding. It's bonding right
Yeah,
there.
I'm
Yep.
literally creating content in my childhood bedroom with like my stuffed animals, like where the camera can't see
Oh my
them.
I know,
gosh.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
That's actually amazing. Honestly, you probably got a lot of inspo. You're like, I've got a lot of
Yeah.
inspo
Ton
from
of
the family
inspo.
dynamics.
Oh my gosh, I was like doing IG lives and my mom would like knock knock, time for tea. Did you have your bone broth today? Like, Mom, I'm on in live.
It's organic advertisement. It's like I drink tea, Elix tea every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, to answer your question, I think so. Some of that, like storytelling, especially about the cultural roots and the origin, it kind of came naturally because I was literally running this business from my childhood bedroom
Yeah.
for the first year.
And there had to be, I mean, 2020 was early for the sort of definitely traditional Chinese medicine trend, but even just all of the sort of Eastern trends that are now coming to
Mhm.
the West very early. So you
Mhm.
were like definitely pioneering that. What level of like education did you have to do? I'm sure a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, we actually weren't sure if we wanted to position ourselves as a Chinese medicine brand versus a menstrual and hormone health brand.
Okay.
And I think it was after that first year, really kind of testing a lot of content and getting feedback from our earliest community members like, hey, I love Elix because it's introducing me to Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine is the one thing that has helped me, avoid a hysterectomy, has helped me heal my endo, has helped me shrink my fibroids. Like, we have such insane testimonials from our community. We have members who've been with us since 2020, like literally approaching 6 years. Our cohort analysis goes back like almost 7 years from my first 2019 pilot cohorts, and we still have some of those community members with us.
Wow.
It is insane.
That is
Wow.
insane. That's amazing. That's amazing. And as you're growing, you're kind of producing your first product, etc. You're launching during COVID.
Mhm.
How did you then sort of expand, and how did
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
expand into all of the different products that you offer now?
It was really based on community feedback.
Okay.
So we launched with a personalized cycle balance,
Okay.
menstrual hormone health formula, and then it was COVID. So everyone was writing in like, "Oh my gosh, this has done great things for my period, but what do you have for immunity?" So then we quickly,
Oh, that
we
makes sense.
started off with our ginger aid, which is just 100% organic ginger boiled down in Colorado spring water, nothing
Okay.
else.
Mm.
And then we came out with an immunity duo.
Okay.
So a stay well, which helps to boost your immunity, and then a get well, which helps you, get well
Mhm.
when you're under the weather. And then from there, COVID was such a stressful time that we had people writing in saying, "Okay, I love using Elix when I'm on my period, but what about all the other days of the month? Do you have something to help with overall hormone health?" And so we launched Daily Harmony. I think it was in 2021 or 22. Now the years are,
Mhm.
but Daily Harmony is based on a 1,000-year-old Chinese medicine formula for hormone balance. It's actually the number one selling formula in Asia because there's so many herbs that are effective at regulating cortisol. And in Chinese medicine, a lot of herbs that help with qi and blood. So to help us if we're feeling run down and depleted. And then after that, it was like, stress and gut health is very much connected. So we worked with Zoe Gong, who's a Chinese medicine dietitian and influencer, to launch our herbal digestive.
Amazing.
And then, yeah, last year we launched Yin Time, a 2,000-year-old
Ooh,
formula for sleep.
lovely.
It's incredible. It helps to calm the mind and spirit so that we can naturally fall asleep. And then we launched our first tea.
Oh, it's
And
beautiful. It matches you.
Yeah, so pretty.
It's a
good
gorgeous
luck.
color.
Good
Good
luck.
luck.
Exactly. Good
It's a
luck.
floral
Uh-huh.
tea. It's great to help unwind at night. So, yeah, there's been a lot of growing members of our formula family.
I love
That's
that. And
amazing.
I guess in terms of your formula, you started the majority of your product is, what's in those bottles,
Hmm.
right? So it's like a liquid herb,
Tincture.
and then you make tea with it.
Yeah.
How did you kind of land on that versus, a traditional pill or a gummy?
Honestly, it's because of the bioavailability, because it helped the liquid form with the herbs boil down. It's the easiest method for our body to actually absorb the
Hmm.
nutrients without any fillers, preservatives, starches, or other things. And it also, I think people can really taste the difference. Like our digestive, we like to do this party trick where um, you put the digestive in your mouth and you can actually feel your mouth warming up and your glands start to salivate. And that's a signal to your body, hey, get ready, food is coming. And it's almost like getting ahead of any digestive issues before you actually eat, because Chinese medicine is all about preventative.
Hmm.
So, I think the taste is such an important component when it's about food as thy medicine. And you don't get that with pills and powders.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
also more convenient. We had a lot of
for
women
sure.
tell us, like, I want something that I could just throw in my purse and I could travel
Hmm.
with.
Totally, for
Yeah.
sure. And there's just digestive issues are so widespread.
Hmm.
Well, like 2/3 of America struggle with something. And like pills or whatever can honestly worsen them if you already have a sensitive
Yeah.
stomach. And also don't necessarily mix well if you have a restricted diet,
Hmm.
or you have other medications. So it makes a lot of sense. It's amazing.
Yeah, and our digestive, it's just like ginger, cardamom, cinnamon. Like when you take it, it actually tastes really good. Like we've had people that taste, it's like a non-alcoholic mulled wine or like a chai
Mm.
latte in your mouth. Like who doesn't like that?
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And I'm assuming you use all your own products.
Yes,
So
every
what is
morning.
every
Yes.
morning, what is your routine?
Okay, so it really depends on what I feel like I need that day.
Okay.
Like if I wake up and it's like a busy week, I haven't been getting good sleep, I feel like a little, like I want to protect myself from getting sick, I will always do the Stay Well. The
Okay.
Stay Well has ginseng in it, it has
Hmm.
medicinal mushrooms. It's really good for fortifying the immunity. If, on the other hand, it's like a day with like 9 meetings and I really just need to be like locked in and focused, I do the Yang Time, which is our
Ooh.
new medicinal mushroom formula for
Mm.
focus.
Love.
But if it's like gonna be like a crazy day where I just don't know what's coming at me and I want to get ahead of stress and cortisol, I do the Daily Harmony.
Ooh,
Ooh,
I
I
love that. There's so many
love.
things.
And you can always mix and match. Like
Yeah.
that's why I love it's kind of like skincare, how you can like layer things. Like we want
Mhm.
to educate people on the herbs and the formulas, and then you can create your own routine and ritual based on what you need.
I love that
I
it's like
love
every
that.
day you can take a different thing. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the same thing every single day.
Definitely. I
Um,
mean, that's the whole mission of Alexis. We want to help people tune in to their
mhm.
bodies and what
Yeah.
they need so then you can come up with the right ritual for you.
Yeah, well, so you've been building this company for, 6 years almost, and ongoing. What are you most excited for the rest of the year?
Well, I'm really excited for some new content
Mhm.
and activations, things we're working on, and new products that we're launching on this mission for us to really help millions of people discover the healing potential of Chinese herbal medicine. Like, my goal is for this brand to outlive me and to be around for the next 100 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, I am so excited to try all your products.
Yes.
I feel like they're so incredible. Also so like Lou, this is an incredible and inspiring journey. I love that you are sharing your roots and your own with like all these women and just helping us, everyone in your community. We always end on this question. We have a lot of young listeners.
Mhm.
And what advice would you give a young person who's looking to start their own company?
The most important thing when you're thinking about starting your own company is to know your why and to have an idea of what you're building this for. I think no shade, there's a lot of companies where you might see a business opportunity to create a lot of wealth. And that's a different timeline. It's a different, way of structuring the company, perhaps different fundraising strategy. But then if you're really building this because you have a mission and an impact in mind, and this is something you could see yourself doing for the long term, then you want to make sure you're really bringing on board the right investors, the right partners, and setting yourself up with control of the entity from day one so that you can remain in the driver's seat and oversee those key decisions and really grow with intention and impact.
Yeah,
That's
that's
incredible.
that's great
I love
advice.
that.
And thank you so much for coming on, Lulu. This was incredible. Where can we find you and Elix?
You can find me on Instagram at Lulu Ge and on TikTok, Lulu the Herbalist and Elix at Elix Healing. And we also have a special for your
Oh,
community,
yay.
Womansplain 15
Ooh.
for 15% off their first purchase.
Oh,
I'm excited for everyone to try the formulas.
oh, that's incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, Lulu. Everyone try Leaks and everyone, thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us at Womansplain Pod on all socials and email us at hello@womansplainpod.com and try Leaks.